Hey everybody, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here. On today's episode of the podcast/vlog, we're going to be talking a little bit about my DIY rooftop tent. So if you guys have followed me for any period of time, you know that I built my own wooden box basically that goes on the roof. I used an existing tent because I wanted to avoid sewing and just all the kind of the hassles that come with making your own. And it seemed like a good idea. And now it's been a few months and I've used it quite a bit and I do still like it. But I have some improvements for it that I'm getting ready to make. So on this episode, I wanted to kind of walk you guys through that. I'm going to have a couple cameras running so that I can actually kind of diagram it out on a whiteboard. If you're listening on the podcast, though, I'll do my best to describe it to you. If you're watching on YouTube, though, you can see what I'm talking about as well. So let's talk about my featured partners first, and then we'll dive right into it. So as usual, I wanted to talk about these small guys that I work with, all just awesome companies, super legit, real people who I love. So real quick, I'm just going to hit on all of them and then we'll dive straight in. So Overland Addict, Chad Boyd, great guy out of Missouri, has an awesome overland shop and an online store, overlandaddict.com. If you go to the description below and click that link to go through to his website, you can find anything related to overlanding basically at his site. Second, Last US Bags, and again, another awesome company. They make overlanding specific bags, tool carriers, tool rolls, just anything that you can imagine. I've got several other bags and they're all awesome. So again, link below, click through that and check them out. Third, More Overland Expo. Again, these guys have an event coming up in February. Before too long, they're going to be actually starting to sell tickets. But for now, click through that link below, pre-register yourself, and they'll let you know when the tickets become available. And then last but not least, Northology Adventures. Again, if you click through that link below, you will see Cindy's website. She's awesome. She leads custom led tours. She also has a free overlanding magazine, which is awesome. And you can get signed up for that on her website. So that's it. That's all of them. So they're all awesome. Check them out in the description below. Now let's dive into it. All right, guys, so as I mentioned, today on this episode, I'm going to be talking about my DIY rooftop tent. Again, I'm going to be drawing it on a whiteboard here so that you guys can see it if you're watching on YouTube. Again, if you're on the podcast, though, I will do my best to describe it. So for those of you that don't know, or for those of you that are considering building your own DIY rooftop tent, I want to start by kind of covering exactly what I did and how I built it and kind of the why, right? So again, it's a wooden box. It's about 7 feet long. So it's just a 7-foot long box. It's about 6 inches thick, like height-wise. It's about 6 inches thick, which holds my 4-inch memory foam mats and my tent and everything else pretty well. It's a little tight with a pillow. It's kind of tough to close sometimes, so I actually keep the pillow out, just FYI. But so then it's about 7 feet long. So 7 feet long, about 6 inches tall, and then depth-wise, or across, looking at the back of my vehicle and looking at it, how wide it is, it's about 36 inches. So it's about 3 feet across, about 7 feet long. So that's 3 feet. All right, so it's about 3 feet across, 7 feet long, and then about 6 inches tall, right? So that's how it is currently. Now, currently, it is set up with the hinge going all 7 feet. So it's got a plastic hinge. I'll put links in the description below to all these products that I use basically to build the thing in case you're looking to build one yourself. But so down the long side of it, it has a big, long plastic one-piece hinge and, maybe 70 screws. I mean, just tons of screws that hold this thing together. And then what that does is it allows me to open the box long ways. So I climb up the passenger side of the truck in the rear, undo 2 latches. It's got gas struts in it, 27-inch, 40-pound gas struts, 2 of them. You pop those 2 latches, you open it up from the side, right? And then there's basically like an A-frame tent. And again, the reason that I did that was because I wanted a rooftop tent, but sewing seemed like such a hassle. It seemed like I'd have to build it or have to learn a whole new skill to do that. And I just kind of heard horror stories about it and the whole waterproofing thing. I was like, I don't know enough. I'm not comfortable enough to do that, right? So I decided just to buy an existing tent. It was about a $35, $40 tent. Again, there will be a link down in the description below if you want to do something similar. But I just bought this tent. I essentially used carabiners because it's got a couple, it's actually a backpacking tent. So it's meant to be held up with like a couple of tent poles or sticks or, whatever happens to be around. So it's got grommets on the top. So I actually used the grommets and some carabiners and attached it via some like U-bolts that I mounted inside the box, and I mounted that to the top. So the ridge line goes that way. It does sag a little bit. So that's one of the problems, is once you're in the tent, it gets a little tight and a little claustrophobic because that ridge line starts to sag. Now, my original plan to solve that was to put magnets along the roof and then magnets inside the tent. The reason for that was, in my brain that thought I was doing the smart thing, was, if I happen to roll over or rip it down, like if you tie it or if you affix it via, like carabiners or something rigid, if I happen to like roll over in the middle of the night and pull down on the tent fabric, I could rip it. Whereas with the magnets, worst case, the magnets it pulls too much and the magnets come apart. They were rare earth magnets, so they're pretty strong, but they're not strong enough to rip the tent, right? But so then I just found that every morning I woke up with magnets all over me. Like I would wake up and there'd just be a couple magnets laying on me or over to the side, or they'd fall in the middle of the night and scare the crap out of me and wake me up. So I finally just gave up on the magnets. So then it just kind of sagged on me all the time. Another sort of negative that I found from this is, so it is a traditional little backpacker's tent with a small little screened opening, right? So it's still not at all waterproof because now it's sitting inside the box. And my original plan was to build basically like a tarp that I would affix to the inside of the top of the box and then use some like adjustable tent poles to like hold that up as sort of an awning out over the whole thing. I ordered some fabric actually from a company in California. It was taking forever to get it, like 2 months, and they still hadn't even shipped it. So I canceled the order because it was just getting ridiculous. And then when I did that, I was like, you know what? I was going to spend $35-40 on this waterproof fabric to, make this awning thing anyways. What if I just revamp this a little bit? So that's kind of where I gave up on that order, and I kind of didn't like it anyways, because again, I'm still dealing with the same problems with the tent collapsing. It still has a tiny opening. So like the last time I went camping, it was very hot, summer camping, bugs everywhere. I couldn't see anything because it's night. I have my light on. I go to unzip the tent. Bugs swarm in the tent. Couldn't get them out. Had bugs in there with me the whole time. Getting in and out, at night to go to the bathroom. It's a tiny little opening, so you kind of have to like curl up into the fetal position and roll sideways, and you're on top of the truck. So then you're like trying to find your footing on the ladder, and it was just not ideal, right? So, so after a couple of times doing that over the last month or so, I kind of was like, you know what? This is just not doing it for me. Like I love being on the roof. I love the quick setup and tear down. I like everything about it except the actual execution that I did, right? So it's my fault. I take full responsibility, right? But so again, like I mentioned, the hinge currently goes down the side and the box opens long ways. So it opens up the long ways and has that existing tent inside of it. Why I mention that though is there's also not a lot of room. Like you can't sit up in this thing. It's kind of like a V-shaped coffin. So when you climb in it, you have to lay down. There's no sitting up. There's no comfort. There's no changing clothes if it was like winter and cold outside. So just the way that I designed it, now that I'm thinking back through it and optimizing it a little bit, is, I'm seeing that, man, it would be really nice to have a big end, right? Or a taller end. So here I'm going to show you guys again, if you're watching on YouTube, on the whiteboard, but I'm going to show you kind of what I'm thinking. So again, I loved my box. Like I had a friend build it for me. It's waterproof. It's already built. It's already attached via 8 giant 3/8 inch U-bolts to the roof. And so it's not really coming off. If I take it off, it's the last time it's coming off. It's not like I can just pull it down and work on it and put it back up. So I'm going to actually make these modifications while it's up on the roof, which will be fun. But so my plan is, so the way that the box is designed right now, and again, I'm going to draw this, but I'll also describe it verbally. The box is designed currently, make sure you can see it, with a lip in the front, meaning the passenger side of my car. So there's a lip there, right? And then a lip down the 36-inch small side, both sides, right? So basically there is a lip all the way around except the back where the hinge is. The back, in this case, being the driver's side of the vehicle. So currently the hinge is on the driver's side of the vehicle. So there is no lip over there, which is going to be a problem for what I'm going to do. Because so what I'm thinking is, again, currently it opens, if you guys are watching on the video, it opens on this side. So this is the hinge, right? So then this opens, basically you're talking about there's the tent and then there's the bottom, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm going to basically, why I'm talking about these lips is I'm gonna remove the lip at the front of the vehicle, okay? I'm gonna remove that little lip on the 36-inch side, and then I'm gonna add a lip, basically just another 1x on the inside of the box on the long side. So now both 7-foot sides will have an interior lip that will run down the box, and then the back of the truck, that will also have a lip, and the front will not. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hinge off the long side, 7 feet right now. I'm going to cut it down to 36 inches, and I'm going to reuse it on the front of the truck. So now, when you are opening the tent, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to pull the latches off the side. So off the passenger side, the 2 latches are going to come off, and I'm going to move those to the back. Okay, so stay with me here. So basically, if you're looking at it from the back now, here's the back of the box, right? And then there's the front up there. Look at this 3D drawing, folks. It's impressive. So now the latches were over here on the side of the box. So what I'm going to do is take those off, move them back here to the back, and then these will be the latches. So both of them will be in the back of the truck now. Now there is one downside to this. I keep the back of my truck open. Mine's an Xterra, and it has a rear opening, upward opening hatch. So it will make getting in the truck a little bit more difficult, like if I have the whole back open up and my drawer system open. But I feel like the benefits outweigh the downsides, right? So, so the latches move to the back. The hinge moves to the front. So again, I've already got this big, huge, long 7-foot hinge. Now I'm just going to make it a 36-inch hinge, and I'm going to reattach it via screws. I'm going to go back over the whole thing with bed liner, and I'm going to reline it just to make sure everything's waterproof. And then I'm going to spar urethane that new inner lip. So everything will be waterproofed again, just like it already is. But so then that's the nice thing is I can reuse the latches, I can reuse the hinge, and all that I'm doing is I'm changing up the direction that it opens, right? So again, instead of opening from the passenger side towards the driver's side long ways, now it's going to open like, if you've seen that new Go Fast rooftop tent, the really super light one, now it's going to open long ways, right? So now it's going to open like a V on its side sitting on top of the truck, right? And so basically what I'm thinking is, again, it's still going to be the same dimensions, right? It's the same thing. So it's going to be 7 feet by 3 feet across and about 6 inches deep. But now what I'm thinking is I bought some fabric, which I will link to down below, which I'm really excited about. It's waterproof 500 denier canvas, waterproof canvas, and it was about $6.99 a yard. So I bought 7 yards of it because I think it's about 18 feet all the way around this thing. But so basically what I'm thinking is I'm going to remount, I'm going to reuse my same compressors, my same gas struts that were currently opening the box long ways, and I'm going to mount them on the inside of the box down the sides, right? So there'll be one on each side of the tent that will now open it long ways instead of, from the side. And then my max height that I'm shooting for is about 52 inches. Now the reason for that, I will tell you, is so the fabric comes in yards, 3 feet lengths, and 58 inches across. So I just want to give myself some extra room by the time I hem everything and then stitch it into the roof, stitch it along the lip on the bottom, or screw it to the lip on the bottom. I just want to give myself some extra room. But so 52 inches is still 4 feet 4 inches. So, and that is, when I'm talking 52 inches, I'm talking from the bottom of the top lip to the top of the bottom lip. Now, if that sounds confusing, let me explain. Basically what I mean is that will be the actual space between the wood, right? That'll be the space between the top piece and the bottom piece will be 52 inches. So I'll technically really have more like 56 inches probably. Now, if you think about that, right? Like I'm 6'2", so I'm not going to be standing up in this thing per se, but instead of having like maybe 28 to 30 inches like I had before, now I'm going to have almost double that. I'm going to have like 56, 58 inches, somewhere in that ballpark. So especially at the back of the truck, I should definitely be able to get in there, sit up, read a book, get dressed, get ready, get my shoes on and off. It'll make getting in and out of the tent a lot easier. And basically my plan is, because I'm not a sewer, my wife is going to help me, so thank you to my lovely wife. But basically my plan is, so I bought this canvas. I bought enough to go all the way around it, right? So my plan is to go literally all the way around, tape it up. I'll link to a video below, the Patrick Remington video, where he talks about how he did his fabric. I'm basically doing the exact same thing, where I'm just going to lay that fabric all the way around it in a straight line. I'm going to mark where the cuts need to go. I'm going to cut it a little long, and I'm going to hem it, and then I'm going to just literally sew one big piece of fabric inside into the shape of this tent. So I'm going to literally sew, basically I'm going to take one big long string of this stuff, and I'm just going to put a hem all the way down the top and the bottom, right? So that'll lose me about 2 inches off the 58, which brings me down to about 56, right? And then that gives me, that's where I'm giving myself a couple inches on the top and a couple inches on the bottom to give me plenty of room, right? But so that should fit just about perfectly. So I don't have to really cut anything except the shape again. So I'm gonna have to cut down the V as it goes towards the back. So I'll have to cut, if you're watching on the video, like basically the fabric's gonna lay like this. You see that? Yep, so the fabric's gonna lay like that, and then I'm gonna mark this line down here, and I'm just gonna cut this whole piece off here. Now there's a plan for that. I'm gonna cut this extra piece off that's probably about 7 feet long, and it's gonna be progressively getting wider, right? Because I'm cutting it up the V. So I'll tell you about what that's gonna do here in a second. But so once I do that, again, put the hem in it, sew it up, screw it into the inside of the box, screw it to the lip on the bottom side of the box, and I've got a fully enclosed tent. Now for my door, again, I'm doing exactly what Patrick Remington did. I'm gonna measure probably about 30 or so inches across in the middle of the back. And I'm just gonna cut straight up on both sides. I'm gonna basically cut a big swath out of this thing. And then I'm gonna hem those sides in, and I'm gonna put a zipper on it and a zipper on the tent. So I can literally just go bzzz on both sides and open this flap up to get inside of it. I also have screen, so I'm gonna use some screen. I'm gonna put a second zipper inside of that. So it's just gonna be 2 sets of 2 zippers, right? You unzip the cover, you can flip it up over the top, you unzip the screen, you get in, you zip the screen back down, or if you wanna close it up, you reach up, pull the thing down, zip up the outside, zip up the screen on the inside, and you're good to go. So that's kind of my plan. Now, I also have been thinking about waterproofing. So technically, just as is, that thing should be waterproof, right? So it's gonna be inside the upper lip, and then it's gonna come down and it's gonna attach via screws. I got these lash screws, which I'll link to down below as well. Really thin, flat, but big head screws that are short so they won't bust through the lip material. But they seat super flat so that the lip can still close, so that the tent can still close. So what I'm thinking is with the extra fabric, right? So I'm gonna have basically 2 big V's of fabric. So my thought is I'm gonna take those 2 V's, stitch them together so that they make a big rectangle. So again, if you're watching on YouTube, let me draw it for you. So basically I'll have, one big piece like that and one big piece like that. So again, to describe it for the people on the podcast, I'm gonna have a 7 foot long, basically, strand. It's gonna get really narrow at the back where the 2 boxes come together. It's gonna get really narrow back here. But then it's going to get progressively wider as it goes towards the front of the tent. So my idea is take those, they're going to be symmetrical, right? Because I'm going to be cutting the same thing off both sides. Invert them so that they sit together and then make one big rectangle of fabric. So that's kind of my plan. So then once I do that, I'll put a stitch down the middle. I'll sew them together into a big, long rectangle of fabric. And then that is what's going to be my canopy. So, and the reason I'm making a canopy is, again, technically the tent itself should be waterproof. But the canopy will make it so that I could, unzip the tent. So if it's nighttime and it's raining and I've got condensation, or I need to vent the tent, or I just want to have the screen up, I could, I'm going to put some little strings and little bungee cords or something so that I can hold up the flap, basically. But I want to be able to roll up the flap, attach it, close the screen so that I can vent the tent but still be bug safe. And then have this canopy. And basically what I'm thinking is I'm going to do, again, the exact same thing that Patrick Remington did in his video. So I'm going to draw it here on the other camera for those that are watching, but I'll describe it for those that are listening. So what he basically did was he drilled just a couple of holes, and I think he actually ended up doing 4. So like 1 on each side and then 2 on the front. So again, looking at the doorway into the tent, he just drilled 2 little holes, and then he went and bought some metal poles and put a bend in the end of them. So again, I'm drawing this for those of you watching, but for those of you listening, he just took straight metal poles that he bought at like a Lowe's, and he put a bend in the end of them. And then what can happen is, you've got your box and you've got your awning. That will come out, and I'm going to put some grommets in it. But then it's basically going to hang over the edge and a little bit down the sides. So it'll be kind of like almost like an umbrella, kind of, right? And you would just put these little metal poles through these grommets, and that would hold it out away from the tent. So again, I could, if it's really nice out, my plan is just to keep that rolled up inside the lip. So it's just out of the way. I don't have to worry about it. I only have to deploy it when I want to. Again, even if I get caught in the middle of the night in a downpour, if the canopy's not up, the tent is still waterproof. All of the tent goes outside of the lip, so even if it poured down rain, it's still gonna go down the tent material and then run off the sides of the truck. But if I know it's gonna rain and I wanna be in the tent, and I wanna have the, the flap open and I wanna have the canopy going, boom, you pop these 4 poles in the hole basically and set them up through the grommets, and that will hold that canopy up and away from it and allow you easy access in and out of the tent, allow you to get out if you need to go to the bathroom. So again, I'm pretty excited about this because I think it's cool. I like the idea of reusing what I've already got. Like, I love everything about it except for those couple of downsides that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, right? So I like this idea of repurposing what I've got in order to, conserve. So basically this upgrade, so again, before, where I was under $300, probably closer to $250. I was calculating that I'd be around $300 to $325 with the waterproof tent material, which I ended up canceling the order for. So I have no money in there. So basically I canceled that out, and then I spent about probably between the lash screws and I already had actually the screen sitting around because I made screens for my Xterra windows with magnets in them, so I could just magnetically attach them to the outside of the truck and keep my windows rolled down if I was sleeping inside the truck. So I had screen material already. So I had that. I bought the screws, I bought the waterproof material, and I'm out maybe about $70. So I was gonna spend $35 to $40 before just to make the design that I wasn't really all that thrilled about work. And now for only a few bucks more, and just doing a little bit of labor to move this stuff around, I think I'm gonna have a much more usable tent and a much cooler design, and it didn't cost me much money. So still I'll be $325 to $350 into this thing. So again, that Go Fast camper is actually, or that Go Fast rooftop tent, the lightest one ever made or whatever I think they're saying, is a steal at $1,200, but that doesn't even include the mattress. The mattress adds another $300. So minimum $1,200 without a mattress, $1,500 in its most, common configuration. Again, I'm gonna be about maximum $350 into this thing. And it's essentially the same thing, but a little heavier. I think they say that tent is like 80 pounds. Mine's about 110, I think, so it's not even that much heavier. But, I mean, it's significant enough that I have to say it, right? But so yeah, so that's kind of the big update there. So there will be more updates coming on that as I go. But I did just want to share that with you guys because I think it's interesting, and I know that you guys a lot of you have been following sort of the tent build, and so you're going to be interested to see that it's going to be totally different here in the next month or so. So I have pretty much everything that I need for it now, so I should be starting on that build the next week or two. So I'm kind of hoping to have it done by the end of August so that I can use it for core. So yeah, so that was it. So again, as always, I hope that that's helpful for you guys. I hope it's interesting to kind of hear the trials and tribulations that I've gone through with this thing and with everything. That's pretty much all my videos are usually is, wow, I really screwed this thing up and now I'm learning from it. So I hope it's funny. I hope it's interesting for you guys. Thank you so much for listening on the podcast. Thanks for watching on YouTube. If you don't already, subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, come and hang out and join the conversation. Also, if you're not aware, and especially if you made it to the end of the video right here, you should definitely go to allthingsoverlanding.com/store because now I have these awesome patches. I have these morale patches, and I also have some cool stickers. So if you go there, I don't want you guys to donate money or send me money or anything like that, but I'd love it if you bought some stuff that is cool and that you're interested in, and that also helps support the channel. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take care.